All right. Hi, welcome to Ask Me Anything. I'm Cassie. I'm a certified prosthetic orthotist at Prosthetics. We are affiliated with Bremer Prosthetics.
And I'm Abbey Senczyszyn. I'm a certified prosthetic orthotist at Bremer Prosthetics in Flint.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about sock apply and volume management and what that means for the different types of suspension that amputees use. So
I'll say with the holidays coming up, change of weather. I know for a lot of us that we live in colder states that have seasons, and that can cause your residual limb to kind of change a little bit, and how we can manage that.
Yep.
I want to start by asking if people have any questions.
Yeah. We can't see anyone, so I just
how would you?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, so if anybody, I know kind of there's a couple, if we want to do some quick introductions of who's joining us today. Just a couple of housekeeping things to start. So you will be automatically muted when you join, and then there's an unmute button, and you'll also be prompted to unmute when you start to ask a question. There's also a button that you can raise your hand if you come up with a question. And then kind of when we finish wrapping up what we're talking about, we'll come around and ask you. So we can start with kind of some quick introductions of everyone else that's joining us. I see a few familiar faces of people that have been here before. So Robin, do you mind starting? And we're going to go ahead and have you unmute yourself first to start.
Sorry, I was trying to. I'm Robin Hendry, and I'm from Roseburg, Oregon. And I am a left above the knee amputee for about 1.5 years. And I don't have any questions just yet.
Okay, good. Thanks for joining us again.
You're welcome.
And then we can't see the names on everybody.
Harry?
Harry.
Harry?
Hi, Harry Dyke. I live in Western Michigan, and I'm a left below the knee almost 1 year ago now.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining us. And Dave?
Can you hear me?
We can hear
Can
you.
you hear me? Oh, I'm not sure how this thing works. So my name is Dave. I'm, of course, here in Saginaw, Michigan, and I'm a left below the knee amputee since 2017.
Thanks for joining us.
And then Sandy.
Okay.
And
Thanks
then
for the
Sandy?
reminder.
Oh, go ahead, Dave. And then Sandy, if you want to introduce yourself quick as well.
Yeah, I'm Sandy. I'm a right below the knee amputee since December 2020. And I actually live in California.
Oh, thanks for joining us. You got a little bit nicer weather out there than us Michiganders, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. So one of the things that we like to talk about this time of year and kind of in the spring that we start to get a lot of questions about is kind of managing volume. So we know through the holiday seasons that maybe diet changes a little bit, activity changes a little bit. And so that can cause changes in the size of your residual limb. So there's kind of some volume fluctuations, and there's a few things that we can do to help manage that to make sure that you can wear your prosthesis and reduce kind of pain, irritation, and make sure that we have a nice snug fit consistently. So I'm going to have you all kind of raise your hand to start of who is familiar with wearing fitting socks if you use fitting socks. Good. So if you want to share kind of to start, if there's kind of a few things that you look for of, okay, I noticed this sensation and that tells me, okay, I got to add a sock or I got to remove a sock. If there's one thing that kind of sticks out.
Harry, you
Okay,
want to
can
go
you hear me?
first?
Yeah. I'm trying to turn my mic on. Yeah, well, that was probably the most challenging thing to learn. I don't know if it's because of my hard-headedness or what, just, thinking that, just deal with anything. But there's a lot of situations that change. I mean, one time we went out to dinner, everything was fitting good, went out to dinner, ate something that was a little salty. And by the time I got home, man, you know, I could feel like my leg just squeezing me like crazy, you know? And so there's a lot of variance and a lot of things to learn it took me. And I still think I'm still got to be very cautious on picking up the symptoms that I need, you know, to do things. But you'll feel like tightness in the leg, and that's how I usually know that I have to downsize. But a lot of times with me, I'm when I start the day off, everything feels good, but I have to always add layers because my leg likes to shrink a little bit during the day, especially if I'm doing a lot of hard activity or working in the yard or whatever, you know. And then I can feel the belling around and the looseness in it. And I have a suction socket, which makes it nicer because it keeps it, my leg, I feel like it keeps it sucked down into place. But still, and when you feel the signs, you really have to do something. You have to do something right away, or you end up with blisters and sores and stuff like that. But to me, I still have a hard time, you know. And I know it's me, you know, well, I just want to finish this up. I don't want to stop. I'm going to keep going till I finish this up and end up, whoops, I guess I overdid it, you know, or I waited too long. Mainly, I waited too long. That's where I get in trouble. But if it feels tight and down, because I've gotten in trouble with that too, where it just, you know, felt real tight and we're in the car. Like I said, you know, we went somewhere, it was quite a drive and my leg just, it was killing me. But by the time I got home, you know, it was too late. I should have pulled over and at least took it off till we got home or something, you know. But that got me in trouble too. So.
Right. And so there's a couple of different situations there. So one, food. So going out to a restaurant, kind of around the holidays, like ham can be a pretty popular thing for people to eat, and anything that has a lot of salt in it is going to make your body retain water. And so with that, then the limb tends to swell up a little bit. The socket might get a little bit tighter, and trying to say, okay, one, I need to watch kind of what I'm eating. If I do this, I know that things are going to fit a little bit tighter. And especially like the next day. So overnight, there's a couple things we can do of like wearing your shrinker. So if you have like that compression sock that goes over your limb, that can just kind of help mitigate some of those changes. But yeah, just being aware of what you're eating and kind of how that affects your body, it's a learning curve for anybody. Of foods affect different people differently. It can interact with different medications that you're on, and those can cause different levels of water retention, and just trying to pay attention to your body and how the socket fits. And then sitting in the car, right? So if your leg's down, that kind of gravity is doing its thing. Water and fluids can kind of get pulled down a little bit, cause that little bit of swelling. And it doesn't take much to change the fit of the socket. So trying to keep things kind of elevated and can help with minimizing some of that. So good. And we have a couple other people here joining us. So I'll have you introduce yourselves, and just quickly, we're talking about kind of managing supply and volume management, of just kind of how to make sure that we keep your prosthesis fitting comfortably. So we have who joined us here?
Philip.
So Philip, do you mind unmuting yourself and introducing yourself quickly? Oh, 1 second, you're not quite unmuted.
Yeah, I just hit unmute. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Awesome. Thank you for letting me join in. I wasn't sure how to do it, and I just kind of figured that out finally. But I am a recent amputee. I'm 52 years old. I live in St. Joseph, Michigan, and had my lower left leg taken back in April. I did get my prosthetic leg finally August 3rd. and couldn't be happier with how life is progressing because it's, as you all know, it's, kind of a slow journey for people going through the process. So I wanted to come on here and just learn about what's going on. I've got some things I'm doing on my own to progress. I'm also, just to share with you, one of the things that I'm working on, I am a former college athlete. I played volleyball for 30 years, played a lot of sports, but volleyball was my predominantly sport. My two oldest of four kids actually played in college. And so it's been an addiction in the family. With my new situation, I'm actually looking for a group to play sitting volleyball. So sitting volleyball is it's a Paralympic sport. It's played all over the world. I'm not sure if there's much going on in Michigan yet, but I'm also on the board of directors for USA Volleyball in the state of Michigan. And so I've got access to some resources, and I'm just trying to get a lot of things underneath me to launch something which is much bigger than just me playing, but possibly doing something for a lot of people that might be interested in learning to get more active. Maybe there's people at VA hospitals who've gone through the process. And there's actually able-bodied people that play this game for the Olympic team. So for what it's worth, I'm gathering all kinds of information from amputees about life and places to connect with more. And I myself am now a member of that community.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And have you found any leagues that have been playing around, or any teams, any information in Michigan, or?
Not in Michigan. And I've got a lot of volleyball buddies. I've got buddies all over the country, but I've been reaching out to my Michigan folks, and I haven't found anybody that's playing in Michigan, but I do have some key contacts that I've been making, Oklahoma, Texas, Florida, and stuff. So I'm trying to understand what they're doing in their communities and how we can duplicate something like that here, and how I can branch out to reach out to organizations like yourself, people who do prosthetics. Over here, I had Mary Freebed do mine in St. Joe, Michigan. But I don't know if you guys are located over in the west side of the state. I think there's a hangar I heard over here too. So there's a few groups that do it.
We have a Lansing office, and then we have offices in Saginaw, Flint, and Brighton.
Okay.
But it would be something that I think we'd be interested in always sharing and connecting. So we have patients from all over the state also. And then Harry,
Awesome.
I saw you kind of wave.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I used Mary Freebed in Grand Rapids, and I played tennis yesterday, adaptive tennis with them. They have both a standing and a seated. I know they have several sports. I don't know about volleyball. I've not heard of that. But you can look them up. They have a website, and Mary Freebed has done some amazing things. I've been scuba diving with them. I've been bowling with them. They're pretty amazing.
Yeah, I'm actually a swimmer too. I've done a lot of sports, but I want to get back in the pool. I would probably choose not to swim with my prosthetic on, but then it's a matter of getting from the pool back into using my prosthetic so I can get around after I get out of the pool. So I've got to learn how to adapt to that myself.
I did that just 2 weeks ago with Mary Freebed, and they were there with me the whole way. So that was my concern, getting in and out of the pool, getting the prosthetic back on. But
yeah,
I had no problems at all.
Oh, that is awesome.
And there is another group called Michigan Sports Unlimited that has worked with organizing a lot of different adaptive events. I know COVID kind of pushed things to the wayside, that it was hard for people to get together and do some of those events. But now that we're kind of coming out of the pandemic era and people are doing more, that they'll probably be starting up a little bit more events too. So it'd be another great resource to reach out to.
That's awesome. I'm going to actually make a note on that right now. I appreciate that, because anything I can do to learn more about just people to connect with. This is called Michigan Sports Unlimited.
Michigan Sports Unlimited.
Okay.
And then one of the other things that we do, so once a month, we have a step-up clinic which is all about basically exercises and advancing your mobility as an amputee. So we do a lot of exercises that are based around kind of balance and stability, and then starting to do more of an advanced class in the spring, which is going to be geared towards progressing up to running. So that's one thing
Awesome.
that we do. We do a lot of the same stuff of we've taken patients scuba diving. We have a dive shop that me and the other practitioner, Nate, here. So we're dive certified. We go and I mean, we've gone out. I know Scott up in Saginaw, he's gone out and played tennis with some of his patients on the court. Of when there's activities that our patients love to do, we want to teach you how to do it safely and to do it basically to get you back out there and feel like you're in a safe environment to take those steps with somebody there that can kind of guide you through that. So Scott Bronick in Saginaw is also an amputee himself. So it's something that he can give a lot of pointers of things that have helped him.
He does a rec volleyball team too. Like it's not for amputees, but it's a regular.
So, and he
Okay.
does a recreation volleyball team.
That's awesome. I actually have played in several volleyball leagues around West Michigan, Grand Rapids, St. Joe, Michigan City, Indiana, also Elkhart, Indiana, so northern Indiana. When I was younger, I played 4 nights a week and I traveled on the weekends. So it's been a passion, but I've also done a lot of different things. And, you know, one of the things is I was sitting in the hospital after having my leg taken back in April. There's a little bit of you that goes, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I never felt like why me or woe is me. I'm just like, this is where I am. So you just got to get ready for what's next. But, you know, now that I've been breaking down barriers, one of my first barriers was to go for walks again. I'm walking the dog now. I'm able to climb stairs. That was important. One of my next steps, well, not immediately next, but one of the things I want to do next summer is get back on a surfboard again on Lake Michigan. And, you know, people do it. And, you know, I find this new addiction to bettering myself every day after going through this and trying to do whatever I can to accomplish goals that maybe some people didn't think possible. I mean, I've been on surfboards before, but never with one leg and never with a prosthetic, but I think it can be done. I've seen it done, and I need to get, you know, that balance thing worked out to where I get stronger in that area.
Right. And comfortably pushing those boundaries of you gotta try it and figure out of, okay, this might look a little different than it did before, but how can I continue to do all of these things that I love? And making sure that your prosthetist is working with you to support you and making sure that your prosthesis also meets the needs of all the activities that you're looking to do.
Yeah.
So awesome. Love it.
I think, by the way, I don't want to make this all about me because I know you've got other people on this, but I'm getting ready for leg number 2. I got my first leg August 3rd. It's been a few months now, but my prosthesis, who I've been working with, thinks that January, February will be the time frame we start shooting for that second round.
Yep. Have you noticed the volume of your limb shrinking down with this first prosthesis?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, I think every different prosthesis setup uses different kinds of socks and stuff, but I've gotten up to 7 layers, so 7 ply, and I'm using a suction sleeve or whatever. You know, it rolls up the leg kind of like a neoprene suit. You know, the gentleman on the call referenced scuba diving stuff, so it's like a scuba suit, I think, and it slides up the stump and holds itself in place a bit. So it has gotten quite a bit smaller. There was a lot of swelling at first. I did have a setback temporarily for about 3 weeks where I was going through the house in the middle of the night. And of course, after I go to bed, I usually take the leg off. So I get around my house on the first floor with a wheelchair at nighttime, go use the bathroom, and then get back out to, right now I'm sleeping on the couch. I haven't been sleeping up in my bedroom where I normally would because it's upstairs and there's no bathroom up there. So I go back to the couch, but I bumped my stump while in the wheelchair, and it was swelling like crazy. It looked like a little baseball was growing out of it, and it made it very difficult for my prosthetic leg to fit. Let alone it was still uncomfortable for a couple weeks. So I did fight through that. There was a lot more pain than normal. I'm past that now, And, at first I wasn't able to use those ply socks for a while. And it was super, super tight. And now I'm back up to 7 plies, and I seem to be pretty consistent at that point. Haven't really gone above that, but, hopefully I'm getting to the point where it's locked in consistent and there won't be a lot of change going forward. I mean, I guess it's always possible, but you guys would know more about that.
And there's always going to be change, right? So your body's going to change over time, that kind of weight gain, weight loss, diet, exercise. There's all of these factors. So things will tend to stabilize. There might not be as drastic of changes, but there's always going to be changes to your body. But good. Thanks for sharing everything. And we had a couple other people join us.
Yeah, if you want to take a minute.
Hi, I can go next.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Tony Ward, calling from Lawrenceville, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. I've been an amputee for 2 years now. And I have a sea leg, and I think it's called the pin and lock system that I use. So I'm doing okay.
Are you currently wearing any like fitting socks with your leg, or do you just wear your liner?
No, I do wear a couple of socks with it. Yeah. Yeah. Since I've gotten it, I think I've had definitely some shrinkage out of ton. I do have a question for you guys. So I fold, I think, my liner like outside of the socket to sort of cushion my walk. Have you heard of people that do that?
Yeah, I have quite a few patients that find that more comfortable for sure. Yeah.
Well, the only problem I have is when I wear pants, though. So,
To like get it over the pants, you mean?
Well, yeah, I get it over, and then when I walk, it sort of pulls a little bit. So what do they do about that?
I'm trying to think.
Like the pants is rubbing on the liner that's
On the liner and grabbing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. I mean, I have some patients that will pull, like, if they wear, like, even women that will wear like tight boxer brief type shorts, and they can pull that over the liner also. And then it will allow your pants to move over it without getting stuck. You could try that. I don't know how comfortable that would be, but.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. So to sort of come over it.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone else do that with their liner? I know we have one other AK patient. No. Yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other?
No, I think because, yeah, if you had like a boxer brief or something, that is going to help serve as a little bit of a barrier to reduce the friction so that gel's not quite as grabby. The other thing is, if you haven't tried it cut down, because sometimes too with the socks, there's padding that when they fabricate your socket. So if it's just a matter of having that as a cushioning, that for some patients, like with the above the knee sockets, we'll actually add like a thin layer of foam and a leather padding that goes across like the sit bone. So where you sit on the back of the socket, that comes up kind of through the middle. And so that can be another way where that padding is then built into the socket. So the liner gets cut down, but you still have that nice little bit of cushioning. So there's kind of some.
That makes sense. I fold it over because oh gosh, what goes over the liner?
The socks?
The sleeve, my sleeve. So if I don't fold it over, I have one that we cut, my prosthesis cut for me. And so the sleeve comes up and it sort of irritates my skin, the border from the sleeve. So that's when somebody told me they just fold theirs over, and it does work really well for protection. It's just when I wear pants, it just sort of pulls my pants. That's all.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
But
definitely
thank you.
try
I'm
the,
gonna try that.
yeah, even bike shorts or something like that under your pants, something light.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Mhm.
And we had a couple of the other people that have joined too. If you don't mind introducing yourself quickly, of just name where you're from.
I can go next.
Okay.
I'm Jennifer. And I've been on here a couple of times before. Is Brianna there today?
She's here.
I'm here.
Brianna?
Hi.
I have a quick question. I'm a below the knee amputee, and I wanted to ask. I don't remember exactly when I got this new leg. I want to say it was back in the summer, and they've recasted me 3 times because it rubs my shin bone so bad, and my the only thing I know to call it is it's like the inner aspect of your stub, okay? And it's like I call it a dog ear. I don't know. That's just what somebody told me that it was called, but I don't know if that's what it's called or not. But anyway, it rubs that, and it is so painful between that and my shin bone because I've lost so much weight in the stump that that there's no, it's just like loose skin, you know what I mean? And so I've had a lot of problems, and the people that I'm going to, they're kind of frustrated because they've already recasted me 3 times and they don't know what to do, and I don't know what to do. And I mean, it got to the point where I said, I need an x-ray done because there's something causing me to have this much pain in my leg. And long story short, that led to other tests, which led to other tests, which showed what they said was osteomyelitis in that bone again. And so I just freaked out, and I thought, oh no, I'm going to lose more of my leg. And but I went back to the ortho doctor, and he's like, there's no way. He said, there's nothing on the outside that indicates that. He said, I just can't agree with those findings. And he said, I think that it's from the friction on that bone. It's causing it to have some type of changes or something that's making it look like that it might be osteo. I don't know. I'm a nurse and I've never heard of that before. But anyway, but I do know with osteo, usually you have something on the outside that makes it look like there's a bad sore or drainage or something, redness, but there's none of that. So I just don't know what to do because I can't get comfortable no matter what I try. And anyway, and so this new leg that they made me, it has an insert, okay? The last one that I had didn't have that. You know what I'm talking about? It's like a plastic material. And what I want to know is that necessary? Like what is the purpose of that?
So first, I want to say the fact that your prosthetist is working through this with you and recasting and trying to kind of figure out and troubleshoot and try a couple of different things is huge. So that's awesome. I love that they're working with you on that, but I know that it gets incredibly frustrated too when you're not seeing progress. But I know that there's always a couple of patients where things change, and trying to figure that out of, yes, it gets a little bit frustrating, but it's trying to figure out of what's going on, and making sure that you have somebody that is going to work with you through those issues and not just say, oh, you just have to get used to it. Because as you know, if you haven't had that before, then some of that stuff can be due to socket fit alignment, or if there is something underlying that's going on within your limb itself. So there can be nerve issues that come up over time, just as the nerves regrow. It takes a lot of time. And so there can be changes within the limb itself that can start to cause some of that sensitivity. So I know as far as friction goes, there's like little kind of those glide wear patches. that can be used to kind of just as a spot to help reduce friction and rubbing. That could be something to try. But also with what they're doing of going through kind of different socket design styles, and I'm sure alignment of trying to figure out, okay, there's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle and what's causing the irritation. But do you notice, like, if you kind of massage your limb just without your prosthesis on, do you get the same irritation as you do in the socket, or does it only seem when you have the prosthesis on?
Well, what happened, I think, is I'm wondering if it's bruised for sure, because if I touch it out of the socket, it hurts. It hurts so bad. Like, just to rub my fingers over that shin bone, it hurts super bad. So just this week, let's see, today's Wednesday. Okay. I've been to the office probably 4 times within the last, from this week and last week both, and they were doing different adjustments. We tried this, it didn't work. I had to go back the next day. We tried something different and that didn't work. We went back, and I know they're probably saying, oh my gosh, this girl's coming back in here again. But it's like nothing is working. And this time it's like that. I've never had so much pressure on the inside of my stump. And that's what I feel like is causing that pain. This time I'm not talking about the shin bone. I'm talking about the stump part, the inner part, like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's like somebody said at one time that it might be a neuroma, and I can feel something there, but they've done an MRI of that and it didn't show that. So I'm guessing that would have showed up on an MRI, right?
Yeah, it seems like it would have. But yeah, that flexible, is it the plastic flexible that's inside the socket?
It is, yeah, somewhat. But here's the thing. Yesterday when I went in, I told them I said, we've got to do something about where that's rubbing on my shin because it's really hurting. And so they took the leg and they said that they thinned out, I guess, the area there in front of the shin bone to kind of leave some of that pressure. And so he told me to do the bare minimum with that. He said, try not to wear it at all the rest of the day yesterday. So that's what I did. I mean, like, y'all, I could not hardly walk. I had to use a walker because it hurt so bad. I could not hardly put the pressure on that in that prosthetic. So anyway, I did the bare minimum. The only time I put it on was to get up and go to the bathroom. And then today when I got up and put it on, it was better. It's still bruised. I can feel it, with my hand, of course, but I can tell that it's better. So I'm hoping and praying that we're on the upward swing here. But anyway, I just wanted to know I've even gotten on some groups and asked people, do y'all have this problem? Because I don't know what else to do about it. It just hurts that bad. And a lot of people say that they have this problem. So I was just wondering, I just wanted to ask y'all what y'all thought.
And I will say, so trying to thin that out around there is going to help create a relief. So it's going to take some of the pressure off of there. And then also letting that bone heal up a little bit. So if there was some sort of trauma that caused things to be irritated and get bruised, that can take a little bit of time to heal. And I know that's the hardest thing. I always hate when I have to tell patients of, what the best thing to do right now is to let yourself rest, let your body heal, stay off of your prosthesis as much as possible. And then that way, when you go in and start to try and move forward, you can kind of see okay, was there something going on, or is this something more constant? And tell a difference between the way that the socket's fitting okay, is there a difference between creating more relief? Does that actually change the way that sensation is? Or are things kind of irritated and agitated that whatever is done within the prosthesis, it's hard to tell because that bone's already so tender and so sensitive that you're not going to see much relief from it.
Yeah, and you're doing all the right things. You got to keep going to your prosthetist and going to your doctor and telling them your concerns. And even if you think you have to get a second opinion, we always encourage that, like even doctors or prosthetists or anything, because, you know, you just don't know. And we don't know without seeing you to give you an exact answer or anything like that.
My ortho doctor, he told me, he said, I'm really thinking that maybe you need to go, you know, maybe to Memphis or Little Rock somewhere, to see, maybe just get a second opinion, because he says that he's just not so convinced, because this is the only place around here. So, you know,
Yeah.
everybody has to go there, and it's just convenient, you know. But I know you've got other people, but I do want to ask you one more thing.
Mhm.
Now I just forgot what I was going to ask. Maybe I can think of it, but go ahead and talk to someone else, because I know there's other people, and maybe I can shoot Brianna a text or something.
I just texted her. I just
Okay.
texted you, Jennifer.
Okay.
I'm wondering, how far does everyone travel to see their prosthetist? Because I know, Jennifer, you said the nearest one for a second opinion is like 3 to 4 hours, right?
Well, Memphis is about an hour and a half away. That's the closest.
Mhm.
Other than the one that I use, which is just like 30 minutes away.
Right. So I was wondering, how far does everyone else travel to see their prosthetist? Because, you know, it's amputees are less than 1%. And then as far as the prosthetic field goes, there's even less prosthetists than there are amputees.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Does anyone want to share how far they travel?
Dave?
Yeah, I'm just 2 miles away, so I'm pretty lucky. I mean, you know, I hear these people's story on here, and I just feel bad for them, because, you know, I mean, we're sort of lucky. We just, you know, we have it right here, and I met Scott before I even had my operation done. So, but that's just too bad that people have to travel so far, because it is a challenge, especially when you're a first amputee. When it first happens, let me get that out right, because you go through so many changes that first year, and a little bit the second year, but mainly that first year, man. You know, there's been times I've been in there a lot, not like her. She said she's been in there, you know, 3 times, but I have been there 2 times in 1 week. You know, when my leg was changing right after the surgery, getting adjustments and stuff, and working on it. And I had an issue similar to her, you know, when I was testing out a test socket, you know, and but with the test socket, they can heat it up and expand that little area out a little bit for you, and do things like that. But yeah, I'm sorry to hear that people have to travel so far. That's too bad. But
Thank you, Dave.
So thanks for sharing, Dave.
Yeah.
I just remembered I was gonna ask you, oh my gosh, now I forgot what I was gonna say. I just thought maybe I can think of it again. I'm so sorry.
Oh, you're fine. You're totally
If I-
fine.
I'll text Anna, that way I don't forget.
Okay.
Cheryl.
And then Cheryl, if you don't mind introducing yourself quickly too. Oh, hang on. We got to unmute you here. 1 second. There we go.
Okay, I'm Cheryl. I live in Saginaw. I've been an above the knee amputee for my left leg since 2014. I do have a question because, you know, my biggest fear during the whole ordeal was falling. I've went to therapy, and for some reason, I can't get my brain to see the leg as my leg. And my prosthetic is really heavy. Now, I went and got a couple of fittings. I have a C leg, but the upper part, I've lost a lot of weight. And Scott had put some padding, like right where the shelf would be. but I'm finding it's not quite enough that it's rubbing. And I'm up to, I can get away with like a 3-ply for the sock. And I'm comfortable with it, but it's heavy. And I was just wondering, is it supposed to be heavy?
So,
I have the hard upper part.
and is the upper part clear right now, like a clear plastic?
No.
Okay. Have they been talking to you about kind of going through, like, I guess in terms of changing the socket? So it sounds like there's been a couple of adjustments made. But in terms of the socket fit, do you feel like that's still been pretty loose? Do you feel like it's pretty snug with the 3-ply sock?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with the 3-ply. I mean, I don't feel like it's slipping or anything. So I'm comfortable there. It just feels like it's heavy. And so for the most part, a lot of times I think I'm shortchanging myself because with it being heavy, I'm 65. Last year I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And I noticed like when I walk with it, a lot of times I get short of breath. I just wondered if there was where I'm at, is that the permanent part, or is there a part that gets lighter so that it's easier to walk?
So Cheryl, my name's Brianna. I'll come over so you can see me.
Okay.
I'm Scott's oldest. Hi. I'm Scott's oldest. I just messaged him and asked him.
I met you at the house.
Yay! Yeah, I used to work in the office all the time. Yeah, it's cool to see you again. I just messaged him and I let him know he said to ask you if you'd want to come on in and that he hasn't seen you in a minute. I don't know if he knows about your your congestive heart failure. But he said tell her to come in, that he hasn't seen you in a minute.
Okay, I will definitely call and make an appointment.
Yeah.
Because it has been a while, and that's one of the things that's been kind of holding me up, is because right now I'm still, even after all these years, I'm still walking with my walker because I don't have the confidence or the courage to try it. I've tried the 4-prong cane. No, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
The walker is great. I mean, it's just, I think the extra security in my mind that I need. So, as long as I can adjust with that, and if the leg wasn't quite so heavy, I think I'd be more apt to try to walk a little more with it.
Right. And if you've been in and out of the hospital too, and having different like lifestyle changes, then everything is going to feel and fit different, and your muscles are going to get fatigued differently too. So talking about building up your strength again and having a prosthesis that you don't feel like is too heavy is going to be really important for you getting up and moving.
And I think too, so you mentioned you have a C leg, that sometimes the hydraulics in those can wear out. And then I've had some people that usually they say, hey, I feel like I'm dragging a bowling ball behind me. Like, I feel like this is so heavy. And they get kind of, so there's a couple of different things that one, the knee might need to be sent in for service, of making sure that that's all functioning appropriately. And then two, with the socket, you mentioned some weight changes, that the leg has shrunk a little bit. And so we can shrink circumferentially, but what can also happen is that we can lose some of that tissue at the bottom and actually get a little bit shorter. And so what happens is if that socket's not fitting appropriately, that even adding the sock ply, that it can kind of accommodate some of that. But when the socket's not fitting well, it's going to make things feel heavier because they're not moving as efficiently with you. So you don't have as good control, that things kind of lag. And it's just one of those of, it feels heavier because there's a lot more movement and it takes so much more energy to actually walk with your prosthesis. So there's tons of things. And yes, make an appointment, go in and see Scott. Because those are all things of, okay, we want to work with you. It's not supposed to be a struggle. We don't want that to be as difficult as it is. To make sure that he can go through and check all of those out of, okay, is the knee functioning appropriately? Is there something there? And then 2, with the socket fit, of going through and evaluating to make sure that things are fitting as snugly and appropriately as they're supposed to be, that everything's supported, that it still matches kind of your body. And that if there have been changes to your limb, that those are all accommodated in the socket.
And heart failure can mess with fluid a lot. And that probably is changing a lot of volume as well. But also, he probably misses you. when
He is one of the best. I just love him. I mean, he is so kind, so patient. And I mean, I really love him. I really do. He works really well with me, you know. But I am gonna have, because you know how after a while, how like I look at where the cut was, and when it started out, it was like right in the middle of my leg, and now everything's kind of folded under. So then I have I'm like the other lady, I have a lot of loose skin, and so I get a pinch like right at where the shelf would be, and and it's like I need some extra cushion there. I always, last year, in fact, when I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, I had retained a lot of fluid, and I got short of breath. And so that's why I went to the hospital. And then they put me on this Lasix. And so everything just kind of went, phew. So all the fluid left. And now, like I say, all I have left is a lot of skin.
Yeah.
So I think the sock is probably, because it is a 3-ply, is what's holding things in place.
Yeah. He'll be really happy to see you. He'll be happy to see you and just get all that worked out, because it sounds like it's been one heck of a year, and then you had COVID and everything else on it. And so, yeah, it'll be good to just get in and figure it out and get you moving.
And we always love hearing from people that we haven't seen in a while, that when those calls pop up, we always love when you get to come back into the office and catch up again. And it does. It's nice to have that connection with people. And you're always on our minds when you don't come in.
Yeah.
And usually we'll pop up, and one day it'll be like, oh, I haven't seen so-and-so in a while. And then it always seems like a day or two later they call.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely going to be making an appointment, because I would like to be able to wear my leg a little more often.
Yeah, we want you to.
It's
All right,
good.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us.
Seeing you.
And then Lynn, I saw you joined us as well. If you want to introduce yourself quickly. Oh, hang on, we got to unmute you.
Thank you.
There we go.
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm sorry I'm late. I was at the prosthetic school, but
You're good.
I just wanted to come and say hi, even though I was late. So I'm Lynn. I'm the host of Lynn's Amputee Chat Room, and I'm also a prosthetist.
Oh,
And an amputee, and you're down in Florida, correct?
Yes.
Yep. So thanks for joining us again, Lynn.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having this.
Yeah. So I think a couple of the themes that came up with the conversations we've had of, one, there's going to be socket fit issues, that over time, as your volume changes, that our bodies go through all of these different things. So whether it's if you get sick and there's changes, if you had trauma, I know somebody mentioned that they hit their limb, and things kind of swelled up a little bit, if you have a fall, that there's all of these different things that can cause things to swell up, that can cause things to either shrink in volume, and trying to manage that. So socket fit is always going to be huge. So if you feel like there's more movement in the socket, that you consistently are getting irritation, and you're just like, gosh, like, I feel like this used to feel a little bit better than it does, or it didn't take so much energy, that's always call your prosthetist, go in, make an appointment, and have them go through everything. So try the sock ply on your own, make sure you're wearing your shrinker, and go through that. But if it seems like, you know what, I'm not seeing as much improvement as I really want to, that things just don't seem quite right, then go in and talk to your prosthetist and have them work through everything with you. Because we'll go through, we'll kind of take measurements, inspect, see how things are fitting, and where there's room for improvement to make sure that you continue to maximize all of your mobility on your prosthesis.
Yeah, and there's not ever like a timeline of like, oh, I haven't seen them in a year, but I should be fine, or it's been 6 months, I should be fine. You should always keep in contact, and we like we said, we like to hear from everyone and make sure you're doing well and reaching your goals for sure. So, but yeah.
And it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything to come see us normally.
But I think just to touch on kind of a couple things with sock ply. So for below the knee amputees, one of the things to watch for. So if you need to increase socks, I know Dave mentioned kind of starting off in the morning. Typically, even with wearing your shrinker, typically the limb tends to be at its largest in the morning. And then as you settle into the socket, as you're up and moving and have kind of the compression from the socket, that can cause your limb to reduce in volume. So over the day, if you notice that one, there's more movement in the socket, that things just have a little bit more play. If it gets really loose, if there's a little bit of rotation, that, okay, I came down, there's a little bit of rotation here. If there's pain, so for below the knee amputees, kind of on the end of that bone at the bottom of your limb, if you feel it kind of right on the front at the bottom, underneath your kneecap, or kind of on that bone on the side. So if you feel like there's kind of some pressures of, gosh, this just doesn't feel like it did when I put it on in the morning, try adding a sock and see if that helps just to snug things up a little bit more, that you can get a little bit deeper in the socket. So you start getting towards the bottom of those little reliefs that are made for the bones. And then for above the knee amputees, sometimes it can be the same of the end of the bone. But the biggest thing is if you feel some more pressure kind of through your sit bone also. So if you're just like, okay, like I feel like it was comfortable and things were kind of okay there, but now that seems like it's really kind of pushing up, then okay, we might need to add a sock to snug things up just a little bit. And I think rotation can be another big one for above the knee amputees. If there's that little bit of movement in the socket, or you notice kind of that more like up and down in the socket, of try adding a sock and see if snugging things up helps.
Does anyone have any questions after all of that?
Yeah, Robin.
Okay, so on mine, I don't wear any socks. I don't understand when people say like 5-ply socks. Is that 5 socks they're wearing?
So the ply comes into thicknesses. So there's like different socks that are different thicknesses, and it's based on how they're made, of actually how many like threads of yarn they use. So it's the different thickness. So a 5-ply sock isn't necessarily always like 5 1-ply socks. But it's thicker than the 3-ply. And are you a suction system?
No, I wear it's just a strap that's hooked onto, it's just a strap, you know,
Okay.
Yeah, but my question, I was just curious about that, but my question is like up at the top of my leg, I'm above the knee amputee, the top of my leg, it's really loose, but the bottom of my leg, it's very tight in the socket. So how do you wear, I'll never get my leg down in there if I wear a sock. So what do you do for when it's real loose up at the top?
The best way to tighten it up at the top is to honestly probably go see your prosthetist, and they can add pads at the top to tighten it up and make it fit appropriately. But I've had patients cut the sock in half and just wear it at the top half of your leg, and then it will move around a little bit. So that could be a little bit of an issue, but it does help temporarily. You could experiment with that for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Well, yeah, definitely go see your prosthetist too, to make sure that they can snug things up at the top to make sure that we're getting a good total contact fit. So if they're loose, that causes a lot of kind of instability, because that socket can kind of move either way on your leg. And then that can cause a lot of issues because you're struggling to put weight through there. When you shift your weight onto the prosthesis, things might kind of kick out to the side. So making sure that things are nice and tight and have kind of that total contact support. So we always look for kind of uniform pressure through the socket, of looking to make sure that there's kind of consistent pressure.
Yeah, that's the issue I've been having for quite a while. And they have given me these things to stick down in there, but they just pop out of there. And that's not working. But I'm in the middle of finding somebody else to go to.
Okay.
I'm in a small town, but we do have 3 people, and one of them I want to get rid of. The other one I don't want to go to at all. So I have an appointment on next Friday. So hopefully that will that will help me. So
Yeah, hopefully that goes
Yeah.
well for you.
Good luck.
thank you. Thank you.
And then what about too many socks?
Yeah. Too many socks is going to cause almost very similar issues with like skin irritation. Like if you're going in the socket too far, you're going to get irritation at the bottom from contact. And then with too many socks, you can be lifted off the bottom and then get almost like cut the circulation off. And then the bottom of your limb isn't getting any blood flow. And that can cause a very bad issue as well. And then obviously all the other bony prominences will not be aligned in the socket where they should be. So that's going to be an issue as well. And you'll notice you're not going in the socket deep enough. So your stability is going to be not great.
And I'd say too, if you're wearing one, it's more rare to see people, I think, wear too many socks. But when that's the case, if you're layering on socks and socks and socks, then usually it's a cue of when you go to put your prosthesis on that you have to kind of force yourself down in there a little bit. So if that's the case, if you feel like numbness, tingling, any sort of squeeze, if you feel like the limbs almost being like choked off, like if you've gone to have blood drawn and they put the, like they tie the little rubber band across your arm, and then you like try to flex your muscle against that. So that can be that the socket's too tight. So if you are in just your liner and things are too tight and you're struggling to get your prosthesis on, then that's always a go see your prosthetist, because it's a lot easier to make things smaller, but it's harder to make things bigger. So particularly with below the knee amputees, if things get too tight at the top, some patients get like kind of almost like little cysts at the back of their knee. That can cause like fluid buildup because the fluid actually can't get past the edge of the socket. So it can cause a lot of kind of swelling and irritation back there as well. So I think with that, we'll open it up for any other questions that people have.
Philip unmuted himself. Maybe he has one.
Philip?
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Oh, wonderful. One of the things that, being as how I live in Southwest Michigan on Lake Michigan over here, I live where I'm at because I really love going to Lake Michigan, swimming in the lake. I don't know if anybody has ever taken their prosthetic limb into open water like that. I think, it's one thing if you're in a pool, you could take it off, swim some laps if that's what your goal is, then find a way, which I haven't figured out yet because I haven't done it, but I'm due to find a way to, when you get out of the pool, how to get your leg back on. But if you go into Lake Michigan, you've got like a beach of sand, and literally to walk up the beach with one leg doesn't seem realistic. So can I wear my leg into either Lake Michigan or an ocean or something like that? And would that be a problem on the wear and tear of the leg long term?
So first, Dave, I saw your hand pop up, so I'm going to have you share to answer that.
Now I swim in lakes with mine. I don't go out very far, but I do swim in the lakes with mine. Now, I thought you could do it with all prostheses, but I guess there's some that you can't. But the one that Scott set me up with is one that he uses for triathlons, where he uses it. I guess he swims with it, then he has to run a little bit, and I think he changes it, would ride a bike, he told me, if I remember right. But, and mine's a suction socket with electric pump. and it's all sealed. So, and we go to a hotel that has a pool. I wear it in the pool, you know, because when I put my leg on, it's my leg and that's it. The morning I get up, I go on, I do everything with it. And the first leg he gave me wasn't the same as what the foot I have now, but he actually put a cover on it. Looked like skin. It's like foam rubber. I don't know if you have anything like that.
I have like a foam rubber foot.
Okay, if you go swimming with that one, be careful because that's like a flotation device. That's gonna want to go up in the air. Right? Yeah. So it was. I swam with it, but it was awful funny feeling, you know. And but I do everything with it. So I swim with it. I go in pools. I go in lakes. You know, we used to go up to Long Lake in Hale, and I swim, you know, all the time in it. So.
And then afterwards, do you just towel dry it, or how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I get off and I let the sun dry it off. Of course, I lift my foot up over my head a little bit, so all the water in the rubber foot will run out. But other than that, yeah, just towel dry it off. And of course, your sleeve, you know, stays a little damp. So if you change out of your bathing suit and put shorts or something on, they might get a little damp a little bit because it stays wet for a little while. But I just let it dry right off. I don't get no water in it. You know, no water goes in there or nothing. I don't know what kind of leg you have, you know. So I don't want to tell you, yeah, go jump in the lake, but you know.
Well, it sounds like maybe mine.
Go ahead.
You know, it sounds like mine might be similar. It's got like a suction, not a pump though. The suction really comes off of, I've got a sleeve that wraps around the socket and it's packed on there pretty tight. And then you roll it up, the stump, and really that neoprene sleeve just grabs a hold of my leg and holds it in place pretty well.
You got like a pump in the heel every time you sit down. It sort of draws the air out of it. Or
I think there's some
hose
kind
that
of
runs
maybe
down from it?
No hose, but it seems like there's like a small hole or something in the bottom
like
of the
a one-way
socket.
valve that lets air out, but nothing in.
Yep.
Ask for sure if you can take it in the water. I don't know. And that was one of the things too of having that foam on there too, was also to help it. But the foam was okay. But you know, when you swim, if you start swimming, it's tough to get the leg back down in the water because it's like you got, you know, it's styrofoam, so it's like wants to hold your leg up in the water, you know.
That's awesome. That's awesome to know.
But other than that, but you get used to it, you know, you learn, you know. But I don't want to tell you to go swimming with it because I guess there's some components and some of the legs that, you know, aren't water, you know, very good in water. But I know that was when I went to Scott, I told him, you know, hey, I want something I can swim in. And, you know, so he made me something right away. He set me up in something right away like that. But then I went back to him. I had a different foot. I changed the foot on it because I got a foot that has sort of that, like the running foot has that angle on it. And it makes me walk a lot better. I mean, if you're not into caring what it looks like, you know, because they can't put that cover on that. I tell you, it's just like pushing off with your toes now. I really like that. I really like
nice.
That. So, and you're in the sports and stuff. I think you'd probably rather have something like that. And so I'm not into cosmetic. You know, I don't care. You know, I want to be able to perform. You know, like my natural foot. You know, so.
And depending on your insurance and all that, and what your prosthetist thinks. I mean, we make water legs for our patients all the time, even if their insurance doesn't cover it. But it's just like basically like a backup leg that we call like a shower leg or a water leg. And just ask your prosthetist about it and see what he has to say. But that's pretty typical thing for people. They like to wear something in the shower instead of sitting. So
and going out, going to the beach, going to the pools. And always bring it up with your prosthetist that if these are goals, if that's activities, if you want to be in the water, so that they can either pick componentry that allows you to do that, and help you kind of go and do the things that you want to do, especially living right by the lake. The one thing, so with the lake water and any salt water, rinsing off componentry. So just when you get home in the shower, fresh water, kind of go rinse things off. And then if you let it sit kind of upside down overnight, because what can happen is that water can accumulate in the foot shell. There's modifications too that we can make that if you know you're going to do it consistently, but that can help of just kind of letting gravity do its job and pull some of that water out, so things dry off a little bit better. But yeah, talk to your prosthetist and let him know that those are your goals and that's what you want to do, so that he can help you kind of make sure you can do that. But by all means, get in the water, talk to them, make sure that they can make sure that your components are safe, or they have a way for you to do that. And make sure that you have a prosthesis that lets you go in the water.
That's awesome.
On YouTube.
So we have a couple of videos on YouTube. If you go to our website too, there's some more information about, it's a very common question, especially early on, that people are like, can I get my prosthesis wet? Can I go swimming? Can I go do these things with my kids, with my family, on my own? Like, can I get this wet? With above the knee. So the one thing is some of the components for the knees. So we have to be a little bit more careful if there's anything that has like a microprocessor, computer chip in it, electronics, stuff like that, then that becomes definitely talk to your prosthetist and see what the limitations are of your prosthesis.
Jennifer, did you end up getting in the water with your prosthetic foot we sent over? I think you said yes. And you're muted. She might not be there. It's okay. She also.
Okay.
That's very helpful information though, but I do appreciate that.
Good.
Yeah.
And then I will say, so with the feet too, because we have one of our patients here also works back in our lab, and he got scuba certified with us. He's a bilateral below knee amputee. And they make different feet too. So if you're scuba diving or you are swimming, that the ankle actually goes, so from being kind of flat like a foot, is that there's a lever and you can adjust it so that they point down like a flipper, so that you can kick with it. And otherwise, there's some people that they'll swim and keep their prosthesis on, but it is kind of that dead weight, because if you don't have that toe pointed, then it doesn't do much for you in the water. So the leg kind of stays up, floats, and you're almost just dragging it, kicking with the other leg. But with those, you can add a flipper and get more of a kicking power. So he goes out with us, he keeps up with us scuba diving, does great in the water. It doesn't stop him. And then we get to the shore, he kind of sits down, flips the feet back up, stands up in the water with us, and walks out with all of his gear up to shore and drops his tanks off. So it's all totally doable. Anything's possible. It's just trying to make sure that you have the components that are right for you and the right fit for what you're looking to do.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So you're welcome.
And then Jennifer is unmuted again.
Oh, Jennifer, I don't know if you heard Brianna ask you a question, but we asked if you've been able to get out in the water with your leg as well.
No, I was gonna start aqua therapy, just because I've been having a lot of issues with this leg and stuff, and so they wanted me to try getting in the water, but then I developed a sore on my my good foot, and so it put me out of commission. I've been in the hospital and all this junk trying to get that well. And then once I get that well, I'm going to start. So, but I heard what that question was. I text Brianna. I don't know if she got a chance to ask it, but, like I have trouble bending my leg. Does everybody else have that problem? Because like I can only bend it with my prosthesis on, like to like a sitting position, and I can't bend it back further. Is that common?
I mean, from a prosthetist perspective, we like to keep the back trim line up as high as tolerable, just to keep you positioned correctly in the socket, and it makes you fit in the socket better. But we say getting to 90 is good. Anything after that is not necessarily always, what would you say? Like,
I'd say it depends on stability.
Yeah.
So as you're going through the test socket fitting, I always try to see, okay, what activities is the patient doing that require them to bend their knee kind of further back or even just sitting position. A lot of it comes back to the shape and the height of that posterior, like that back trim line kind of back on the calf. So with that, things can be flared a little bit to allow it to kind of settle into that tissue. The tendons, so the two tendons kind of on the outside of your knee can get impinged, and it can be limitations there, or with just the overall height. So usually going through, I take a look at like where the patient's bending, what's getting impinged that's restricting additional knee flexion range of motion to bend that knee back. And seeing, one, can the patient tolerate it being lowered without compromising socket fit? So fit and stability are always going to be kind of top of the list, and then working with the patient of what works for you. And is this something that making sure that we develop in your plan of, can we get that knee to bend back a little bit further? I have a lot of patients that can bend their knee back quite a ways. And then some of it can also be that as you add material, so as you're adding more fitting socks and a different suspension sleeve and add stuff kind of back behind your knee, then that can cause things to bind up a little bit because there's more stuff there that can also restrict motion. But it's totally possible to get that knee back a little bit further. It's just a matter of looking at making sure it can be done safely so that you stay nice and stable in the socket as well.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
We do have a question from Facebook,
Oh, and we have a question from Facebook that Bree's going to share with us here.
and it's 4:11. So if it just to let everyone know too, because we're gonna be an hour, but can I use cushion on what can I use as cushion on my stump? My bone is sore. If you want to repeat.
Yep. So there was a question that came in on Facebook that asked, what can I use as a cushion on my residual limb because my bone is sore?
That's kind of one of those questions, like, you don't want to cushion the area because it might cause more pressure, but you might want to put more pressure on the areas beside the bone that may be getting irritated. And I would say even go in and see your prosthetist before making modifications to the socket at home, unfortunately.
And so it seems counterintuitive, but if there's a lot of pressure on a bone, instead of adding something to cushion, it's usually going to be, okay, other adjustments need to be made to take some of that pressure away. So if you're trying to add, like, even putting a Band-Aid over an area that has like that little bit of thickness or gauze, can actually make the pressure worse because you're increasing the resistance in that area. And so when it comes down to things that are caused, like being irritated, causing pressure to the point where you can't stand it and it's causing that pain, always call your prosthetist and go in and have them evaluate, because it could be a matter of making adjustments to see where things are at. But that's one of the ones that I think is counterintuitive to a lot of people, because trying to add something there as like a padding can actually make it worse. And same with like getting a sore of, oh, I put a Band-Aid over this. We always use something that's really thin. Like if you went to go get a tattoo, like that really thin film that goes over your body, of trying to basically minimize the thickness to reduce the pressure over that area. So, do we have any other questions?
We have someone.
Oh, we have someone here too that just joined us. So go ahead, introduce yourself and let us know what question you have. Oh, hang on. We got to unmute you.
There. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So I got my permanent prosthetic maybe about a month ago, and they had to blow it out a little bit more because it rubbed the residual bone. But my question is I have a suction prosthetic, and during the day, it kind of loses air. I mean, so I have to push the button and hold it to get the noise to go away. Is there anything else I can do about that? I mean, I've been to my prosthetist about that and I asked, and he's did about everything that we can do, but I'm just wondering, I started walking now, and so generally when I'm walking, at some point it'll start making like a chirping bird noise.
So I might have missed this and I apologize, but are you above the knee or below the knee?
Below the knee. I'm sorry.
No, good. So there's a couple of different things that can cause that. And so sock ply of things, if it's happening later in the day, but it was fine in the morning, of trying to add that sock to snug things back up. Two, if you get a hole in the suspension sleeve, so the part that you roll up on your leg, it does not take a big hole. Do you have a suspension sleeve? I know you said you're
I
suction.
do not. No.
Do you have a seal and liner?
I just have the liner.
Okay. And it has like little rings on the side of it that help.
I do.
Gotcha. And so with that, do you notice that air more like if you sit down and then you stand up and it takes a little bit that you get more air coming out, or it just seems as you're walking?
More like, both times.
So sitting, what can happen is that our bodies adjust, and kind of the way that we settle into the socket, you can pull out a little bit. So when you stand up, you settle down into the socket again, which is going to force some of that air out. The other thing is you could try like an auxiliary sleeve, which would roll over and create kind of more of a seal, to kind of help hold things on a little bit better too. So that that air, once it's pushed out of the system, that seal's not breaking, it's staying nice and secure, and you stay kind of consistently in the socket. But if your volume fluctuates kind of through the day, that things get a little bit loose, then what happens is you can shrink down in the socket, and now it's not as kind of snug and secure, so that seal isn't quite as tight, which can cause you that as you're walking might slip up and down and consistently get that little bit of air that continues to be pushed out of the socket.
Okay. All right.
So
thank you.
Always inspect the seal around the liner too, because they have a tendency to crack, and you can barely notice it sometimes. And if it just continues to leak, then that could be one of the issues also.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So thanks for joining us. All right. And if we have any other questions, I know we're going to get close to wrapping up here soon. Does anybody else have another question they'd like to ask? Oh, we have down. Who's that in the bottom? Sorry, we can't see the names on the bottom, so we're checking. The in the pink.
Heather joined.
Oh, Heather. Okay, Heather, we're gonna unmute you. Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, is that better?
Yes. Hi, I recognize you now. Yes.
Okay. So
Thanks
I have
for
a
joining.
question. So the last few days, like my leg is really bothering me. Like the phantom pain is really, really bad. Like I keep feeling like I have a foot and like I have ants running in my toes, and it's really painful. And I am on gabapentin, but it's like the last couple of days it's gotten really bad. Do you guys have any like suggestions of something I can do?
Have you, is there anything that seems to agitate it, or it just comes on kind of out of nowhere?
Like it was okay like for a little bit, and then like there'll just be days where I don't know if it's the weather. It just gets really bad. Like today it is so like it's hard for me to wear my leg today because it's so bad. I tried taking a bath yesterday, but that didn't help at all. So I don't know if there's anything I can do.
I'd say, so one, the first thing is going to be massaging your limb kind of as much as possible and as tolerable, of trying to get used to seeing, kind of disrupting those nerve signals a little bit. I know, so Scott up in Saginaw, one of the things that he says that helps a lot too is basically taking his leg and like stomping his heel will kind of help again, like just disrupt that of like, okay, like this is not the actual sensation. I can feel my heel on the ground, and tries to disrupt that a little bit. Everybody's bodies are different. There's different things that can cause those phantom sensations, but trying to get your body to kind of adjust to where those nerves are going and to say, okay, that's not the sensation that you're wired to anymore. So the massaging just kind of helps your brain and your body reconnect again of where those nerve signals are going to, and say, okay, so, and if I massage like on this part of my limb, that part of it might start to feel like different areas because the nerve is trying to send this signal to a part of your body that's no longer there. So just trying to massage things and get used to different pressures can help.
Okay. Now, like,
So-
I've heard of like, there's like, supposedly there's a surgery that you can get that like goes in there and like reconnects the nerve to somewhere else to help. But like, does that involve like recutting open my stump?
So it does. There's a couple of different procedures. There's two main ones, and that is, it depends on how successful they are. But going and getting a consult, we have a couple of physicians here that we work with. Dr. Sedurna down at U of M is phenomenal. But there's kind of two different procedures. One's called TMR and one is called RPNI. So TMR is actually going to innervate that nerve into the muscle belly and give it somewhere to go. And so it has this muscle that it can control, whereas RPNI takes just a tiny little piece of muscle and connects it to the end of the nerve. So now that nerve has a job to do, that it wasn't just tied off. And it kind of depends on how they did things with your amputation. But if those nerves were just kind of left, now your brain's trying to send signals and it's just hitting that dead end. So the nerve kind of freaks out and is like, okay, I don't know what to do because I'm trying to finish my job and there's no end place for me to finish that. And so those two, tying them to the muscle belly or into a little piece of muscle, lets that nerve kind of finish that signal and relay what it needs to without kind of causing some disruption. So the TMR, what they're seeing is that a lot of that can actually cause what's called like hypertrophy of the muscle. So muscle growth, because now it's getting this kind of condensed signal. So we can see some actual muscle development with people. Whereas RPNI, with taking just kind of that tiny little piece of muscle, it's not going to be enough where that muscle is actually going to grow, but it is enough to kind of tie off the nerve and still have it have a job to do without that disruption. So with anything, surgery is always a big thing to consider, that there is a lot of kind of just different risks to be aware of, that it's not a light decision, but making sure that going through the pros and cons, talking, getting a consult, working with a physician to see what's going to be in your best interest.
Okay, which one of those is like the least invasive?
It depends on the surgeon and their procedures. So that would be one that they would have kind of more information of how they're each done. And it depends on kind of where the nerves are at, that they go through and do a lot of evaluation to see what's going to be best. Some surgeons have different techniques that they use, and one will prefer one over the other. So it comes down to kind of what they're familiar with, and they all have different reasons of, okay, I've had good outcomes with this, and this is what I've been trained to do. And they'll have kind of different procedures that they do.
Okay, so is it you guys that would do like a referral to be able to go talk to the doctor at U of M?
We have, I think that's typically like we'll send out some information of here's what's been going on, history of the pain, and then send out to help schedule an appointment.
Okay, so would I just need to call the office and then talk to you guys and then do that? Okay.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, this is awful. The weather and stuff is so bad.
I know.
No, but
thanks
thank
for joining
you. You
us,
guys have been
Heather.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Question. I sometimes do have phantom pain. Here, maybe a couple of weeks ago, it's the second time that it's happened. It's gotten so bad that I almost wanted to go to the hospital for it. What triggers phantom pain?
I think it's different for every individual. I mean, did you notice you were doing the same things when it happened, or was it just random?
It was like it was just random. And
Yeah.
it wasn't like that the first time. But I mean, it was like on a scale of 0 to 10, it was like an 11.
Yeah, I have some patients that almost pass out. It's so bad, and I can sympathize with that. That's awful. Do you want to answer?
Yeah. One thing that Scott describes it as is like, so it's hard to define when you get a toe, like a toe cramp, but your toe can cramp sometimes and your foot will hurt. And so because your toes and your feet are now gone, your nerves don't always register that they're gone. And so just like how you could get foot pain, those nerves are still working to give you like residual limb pain. And so Scott tries to reword it as like phantom sensation, because he said if you can reword it as sensation instead of just pain, then when you're feeling it, you're like, oh, I'm getting sensation. And you can like rewire your brain to interpret it differently. And that can like remind you, just like how you can experience pain, you can experience pleasure. And if you're experiencing like foot pain or like residual limb pain, then you can massage that out to the best of your ability. But it's like, just like how it's hard to describe why sometimes your leg hurts or your feet hurt, your limb can hurt too. Not that that's always the same, but your nerves are still thinking that you have a foot or that you have a leg that's in pain.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know with the phantom pain, phantom sensation, it can present differently for everybody. There's different things that can just kind of cause it. And it's hard to say that there's been a ton of research in this area. And it's really hard for them to conclude of what is the cause. Because a lot of those signals do get disrupted. And so it's trying to, again, rewire your brain. But if it's something that even inconsistently you don't have, and then you just one day out of the blue start to have a lot of those sensations of trying to go through and massage things, wearing the shrinker to help mitigate some of that. Yeah. So I had one other thing I was going to add, and it slipped my mind. So happens to the best of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I did a little bit of research when I was in college about using a TENS unit. Those little, it like sends signals across your nerves and stuff. It's like almost kind of like shocks you. It's not scary, but I don't know, people use them on their backs when they have back pain and stuff like that. But there's been studies shown that can help too, and you can normally buy those pretty cheap online or whatever. I just don't know how long does the sensation go on for when you get it?
Sometimes it's hours.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So yeah, definitely massage, but that would be something that you could try. And then discuss it with your doctor also.
Okay.
Anyone else have any more questions?
All right.
Good to wrap it up.
I know we went a little bit over today, but when there's good conversation, we're always happy to kind of continue that and have everybody keep asking questions or share stories. So thank you all for being here today. We really appreciate you joining. And Philip, I would love for you to kind of send us an email too, or reach out so that we can connect and see if we can help with setting up any volleyball leagues or adaptive sports too, and provide any other resources for you.
That would be great. Do you have an email address that you can put in chat or send to me?
You have his.
I have his phone number, so I was going to connect with Scott.
Bill has your phone number, so we're going to reach out to you and we'll work with you on that.
That sounds wonderful.
And then do we have our next step update too?
No.
In January. Okay.
But if there's any recommendations or suggestions for the next topic,
So yeah, if you guys have any ideas or would like to hear more about a specific topic, we kind of try to gear these towards, we'll talk about something for the first little bit. So that way we can gear the questions more towards that and then have it open-ended for the last half. And we'll be releasing our spring step-up schedule kind of after the holidays when we get the dates nailed down for that. We do host that in Frankenmuth typically, so the location might change. But that's something that we also live stream on Zoom to have people participate. So that's the first hour is a similar kind of Q&A style. And then the second hour, so that's a 2-hour class. The second hour is going to be the activities of the exercises designed specifically for amputees. So that would be another place to kind of connect with us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for today.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. Thanks for joining us and thanks for sharing.
I would just like to mention to Philip, if I could, that when he emails you, he might want to mention about the foot that I have. I think he would benefit with his activity. I think he would benefit from it.
For sure.
Maybe, but you might want to just check into it. I just you know, because I think, you know, you like to do a lot of different activities. I mean, I don't do a lot of, I do a lot of stuff, and I really like, and because I know the foot I had before was sort of a boat anchor because the heel didn't move and none of that stuff very much. And this year
I'm exactly there right now.
Yeah, and you can actually jog a little bit, you know, with this one and everything.
Yeah, I can't do that yet. It's frustrating because I tried to do that across the gym floor, and of course you just have an ankle that does not bend. So
exactly.
there's nothing
So
there.
you know, I let them know if you can call. You know, you can just talk to them on it. I think you would enjoy it as long as you're not into the cosmetic look. I think the foot would benefit you, and personally, me, you'd be able to stand up and play volley. You know, do the volleyball. You know, so
yeah. I'm definitely interested. I'm interested in learning more and moving forward. That's all I want to do.
Because it was like night and day. When I got that, it was like, wow, I wish I would have got this the first time, you know. So
when people don't get something like, I mean, I get that some people aren't active, but when people don't get something like that, is that typically like an insurance thing or?
So starting out, because you are still in your initial prosthesis, right? Your preparatory. So
Correct.
Starting out, we usually start with something that's going to be a little bit more safe, a little bit more stable for initial rehab phases. So as you progress and start to trust your prosthesis, put more weight through it, develop good gait habits, go through physical therapy and start to progress, what happens is exactly where you're at. You start to plateau on that foot. And so there's different feet that can be more responsive, have a little bit more springiness to them. But if you start out on that foot, you're actually not going to put as much force through it to actually get the benefit from it. So a carbon fiber foot where you're going to get more energy return, if you're not walking at fast enough speeds and you're not putting the weight through the prosthesis, you're actually not going to see a benefit from that foot. So you're going to be better off starting with something, but then you reach that level where, okay, I've been able to go up and do so many things and get myself to a point, but then I kind of level off and now I feel stuck. And so that's where trying different feet, different components, different suspension systems, that can kind of help. Okay, we're trying this and now this is opening up a whole new door of activities and stuff that I can do and see a benefit from those components, that it's not necessarily the best thing to start with.
Yeah, it makes sense. I appreciate both of you guys, everybody here, but you guys have given me a lot of things to be talking to my prosthesis person about for sure.
Yeah.
Prosthetist, is that the right word?
Yeah, you got it. You got it.
That's the thing about this. It's even though like I've been since 17 or whatever, you learn about other people's problems. You know, other people have different problems and stuff, and it's interesting to learn and learn about them. And sometimes you can, you know, you have some input in it, but not, you know, it's interesting to hear that somebody out there might have some input for somebody. So that's why I come on, you know, like to come on here too. So I learn every time I come on here. So
yeah, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
Yay. All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Have a
Have
good
Oh,
one.
yeah.
Have a happy holidays, Merry
Christmas.
Christmas, and a Happy New Year.
You
Merry
too.
Christmas. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.